Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the award-winning To Hull and Back podcast, doubling as To Qatar and Back for the World Cup month, sponsored by 6 Yards Out and Pearson's Bar. And before we do anything else, Ant, you've got some exciting news about an opportunity you can get if you go to Pearson's Bar in Hull.
Yes, so obviously Jimmy Chew runs Pearson's Bar, and he's let me know to let you guys know that during the World Cup, every time you go to Pearson's Bar and watch a World Cup game, that is essentially an entry into a competition to win prizes, which will be tickets to and travel to England games. So the more games you watch at Pearson's, the more entries you get, which essentially means a bigger chance of winning said tickets and travel. So someone will come around, obviously take your number every time you're there, kind of thing, and that'll class as your entry. So get yourselves down to Pearson's during the World Cup, and you might be watching England live.
Oh, awesome. And speaking of prizes, of course, we are now an award-winning podcast. Ant and Will, you went to the Football Content Awards ceremony last night for the 2022 awards, and we're delighted to announce that we won third prize in our position, a bronze medal. So tell us a little bit about the evening.
You know what? It was one of them weird things because, like, we just kept saying to everybody that it's one of those things that we were just happy to be there. Obviously, this was our first ever nomination and appearance at something like that, and to be surrounded by, club content creators, podcasts, and influencers, everything to do with sport that have got like millions of followers and huge fan bases that have been established for years, and to be in amongst that is like genuinely is to be competing. And not only that, but come away with an award as well. It's crazy because if you think the only two podcasts that we lost out to were Under the Cosh and Hard Truth, which are two absolutely massive podcasts, and they're not really affiliated to a specific club, so they're more like football league in general. So if you take those two out the equation, we were essentially the highest ranked EFL club podcast. Which, when you think about it, it's a bit crazy when you think about the other podcasts like Borough Breakdown and that they was up against. But Free Beer met a few the icons, obviously like Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV. Dino went up on the stage and spoke about mental health and things like that. It was a really, really, really good evening, and Will especially, I think, enjoyed the Free Beer, didn't you, Will?
I am knackered.
It's something short and sweet comment there.
Yeah, I think it's something that obviously next year, now that we know like the whole process behind it and what the evening's like and what to expect, it's something we can aim to do every single year, which obviously requires us to give obviously our viewers the kind of content that they want to see to vote for us to do that. So if anything, it's going to act as a motivator for us to continue to doing what we're doing, and hopefully all of us can go next year and make it a big team thing, because there were a few people there that went in big teams. I think Hair Game 2 had about 7 or 8 people there as well. So it'd be nice to have the full team there next time, and hopefully we get to go next year. It's really good.
Yes, I mean, hopefully we can make a big thing of it, but just to be there and get an award this year is fantastic. And, I just want to take a moment to be soppy and thank you for the opportunity that you gave me by offering me a, position on this show. The first episode I did was about the Euros, so it feels like a appropriate sort of time to do this after the ceremony last night. So yeah, and I love it. I think we should be proud of us for making what we have, and thanks to everyone who voted and is listening. So is that enough soppiness? Shall we get on with the football now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So of course we are talking about the World Cup, but there was one whole match which we haven't covered yet. A very disappointing home defeat. Well, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it very much, and I don't think there's much to say. Hull, it was Hull 1, Reading 2. I went to the game and I enjoyed it pretty much until the 94th minute, where conceded another terrible set-piece goal. I don't know who scored the own goal. I can't say I've looked at that, but whoever it was, I'm sure, feels really bad about it, and, it wasn't their fault. So, I mean, I think we played relatively well, especially second half. We had a lot of the ball, but we didn't really do much with it. Tom, what were your thoughts about Rossini's first home game in charge of City?
Obviously, there was positives to come from that, but I think the inexperience sort of shone through in the end, in terms of how he approached the game towards the end. I guess maybe wrong substitutions and ultimately, it was defensive errors that cost us. And that's obviously been a theme throughout the full season, our poor defence. And Rossini obviously has a job on his hands to sort of turn that around. But I think, if he's got the ability to sort of galvanise his team. But I think, if you'd have said Rossini's first 3 games in charge would have taken 1 win, a draw and a loss, you'd have probably taken that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Are we not going to mention the apocalyptically shit refereeing?
Oh, it was awful,
yeah.
wasn't it? Yes. And perhaps not the reason why we lost the game, because really, we could have scored more goals, but rubbish. And the standard of officiating has been fairly dreadful one. It's usually quite good internationally. It's just in England it's awful. So hopefully for the World Cup we won't have any howlers to talk about, even though they are fun when it doesn't happen to your team.
Well, you've jinxed it now.
I have, haven't I? I guess one positive, even though we're rubbish at defending set pieces, we're scoring more. Jacob Greaves got his first goal at home. And is that good?
Yeah, because I think that's the one area of Jacob Greaves' game that he's not had the best of luck with in his Hull City career. He's been phenomenal for us in a defensive sense. Then obviously in League One he had a few near misses, and he had McGuinness stole one of his goals, didn't he? And he just seemed like he'd never score. And then hopefully now that obviously he got his first goal away, and then now he's got his first one at home as well. So hopefully like the floodgates have opened in that sense. But we need people like Greaves to be contributing these kind of goals, because from set pieces, in both senses, we've been woeful. Like we don't score enough since the League One season. We've been dreadful at set pieces. People like Greaves and Figgs and Jones need to be stepping up and getting on the end of some of these crosses, because I know most of our corners are pretty poor and don't beat the first man, but every now and again we get one right there in the mixer that could be in the back of the net, and someone gets on the end of it, but it's always a near miss. So it's nice to see some of them start to go in, because set piece goals can be the difference between finishing in the bottom 3 or finishing in mid-table. It gets you those extra points, doesn't it? And it's definitely an area that looks like now it's starting to pick up, and hopefully with this month break, it's something we can work on in a bit more detail.
Absolutely. And as Ant just mentioned there, we've got a month off. We mentioned it before on the podcast that it'll be important to have a month off for this team to build some confidence, especially with a new manager. Just how important will that month be, and what should City focus on doing during this month off?
It'll be a massive month off, because it gives the team a chance to get a bit of a rest. It allows them to. But the main thing about it, I think, is the fact that when we come back from the break, we'll have a lot of players back who've been injured, who were integral early on, in like Tete, and we'll have obviously Salah. We'll have Aliar back as well, and we'll might finally see Adama Traore as well at some point after the break. But I think the main thing they need to be focusing on is it's the main thing that we can see from set pieces. They need to be focusing on their routines for set pieces, both attacking and defending, I think. But in general, it'll give Rosie a lot of time to just work with the squad on a sort of day-to-day basis, not have to worry about results, and just focus on getting his style of football across to him.
Yeah, I think it'll be strange for a lot of players as well, given the last almost 2 seasons now where COVID has struck, and there's been so many games congested next to each other, and the Euros in the middle as well for some players. So it's been a really tough, however long it has been for players playing so many matches. So I think everyone will just appreciate a month or just at least a few weeks training together without a match to, kind of rest a bit, because it has been an intense period. But as we've mentioned, Tete and Aliar unfortunately got injured, so they're not going to the World Cup for Ghana and Iran. But these are the people going to the World Cup for England. And I'll just get it up on the screen now, because I don't think I've asked any of you about your opinions on the squad. When you saw the England squad announced by Gareth Southgate, 26 players, were you happy or displeased with it?
I think it's the same with every England squad that's announced. You're going to have people, omitted that probably should have gone, and people go in that probably shouldn't. And I think what frustrates England fans and myself included at the minute is that, Southgate, when he first came in, said he was going to come in and pick players based on form. And he kind of picks and chooses when he does that. I mean, like if you're going off form, you know, Maguire shouldn't be anywhere near the squad. Somebody like Tomori should be in there. If you're going off form, Calvin Phillips shouldn't be in the squad. He's only played one game all season. But you know, it's like I said to Will on the train today. He picks players that, you know, have done well for England, which, you know, you can understand to an extent. You know, if they're good for England and they're good for the system, then fair play. But you know, that's not essentially picking players on form, is it? It's not doing what you're saying you were going to do. And I think, you know, players like Tony as well, not going, showing the form that he is this season. He's on fire. Obviously, I think that maybe the FA charge on his betting maybe had a bit of something to do with that, but you know, he's not gone, and it's a side I think that's capable of at least getting to the latter stages of the tournament. Whether or not it's good enough to win is another question. I think, you know, we've shown that we've got good tournament mentality the last, you know, couple of tournaments. So hopefully this squad, they've all played together before, so. And then the inclusion of Maddison is really important because obviously that guy needed to go. He was one of those players that absolutely had to be in the squad, and he is. So, you know, let's see what they can do, and hopefully players like Maguire and that can prove us wrong too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Will, who are the players included in the squad that will be perhaps most surprised that they're going, and who are the players not picked that you're most disappointed didn't get in?
Well, Maddison, because I don't think he ever expected to finally get called up, because for God knows how long, well, I can't remember when it was, when there was the incident when he got called up, pulled out injured, and then appeared in the casino the following day, which obviously did not help him with Southgate, and ever since then Southgate had a bee in his bonnet about him. But I think he'll still be surprised he's finally got the call up, because it's similar to when Grealish, before the Euros a couple of years ago, where everything Southgate was saying suggested he didn't want him in the squad, and then the last second he's decided, oh no, we'll take him. Which feels like he's given into a bit of peer pressure from the media and the fans. But he should be there, because if you look at his stats, he's the best goal contributor by any of the English players, of all the ones that are there. Other ones who might be surprised to be there, I don't think any of them are. I think a lot of them are names you'd expect to be linked with the England setup anyway. And maybe just because his form has tailed off recently, maybe someone like Eric Dyer. Maybe might be surprised he's gone, just because of his form tailed off. Most of those names you'd expect to see in an England squad by Southgate.
What about Conor Gallagher though? Because that's the biggest surprise for me.
He's become a regular call-up. He has become a regular call-up since he got his first call-up into Southgate. But is it maybe because he shouldn't be there, Calvin Phillips, because he's only played one game all season? He shouldn't be there for that reason. You'd think maybe he shouldn't have expected to get the call-up.
Yeah, but then Tom, if they didn't pick Phillips, who had a fantastic Euros last year, who would have you picked? Who would you have picked instead?
The thing is, it's hard because we don't have a lot of players that can anchor the, you know, in front of the defence. We have a lot that can anchor the midfields, and you know, Phillips struck up a good partnership with Declan Rice in that Euros, and I think Gareth has gone off that in terms of who he's chosen in that spot. I think James Ward-Prowse could have felt hard done by to miss out, but I think we have enough of them sort of creative ball-playing midfielders in the squad to not warrant taking him. Conor Gallagher was one of them sort of wild card picks that I was surprised to see, but he's chosen him on the basis of he's across the midfield, so he can play sort of in behind the forward, sort of box to box, and sort of in front of the defence, where he's been playing for Chelsea recently. So it's hard to say who you'd replace Phillips with, because there's not a whole lot of options, and that's the reason why ultimately Phillips has been taken. But it's they get that element of trust that Southgate has with Phillips that the reason why he's gone. But yeah.
Well, I suppose he is a versatile player, but I certainly would have taken Ward-Prowse. I think you can never have too many free kick takers. And you know, free kicks scoring from set pieces has been really positive for us. And I think, you know, I trust him as a more experienced player, perhaps in better form than Gallagher, but and perhaps could play defensive midfielder if we're not sure about Phillips' fitness, and then if Rice was suspended or injured. But what do we generally feel about the squad and Southgate's policy on picking players in form? Because I think throughout this tournament, I'm probably going to be defending Southgate a lot unless we lose to Iran on Monday, because I think he's done a fantastic job, and it's a lot of, I think, unfair criticism. Perhaps he could be more attacking, but he's picked Wilson, who's in form, and that sort of thing. And Maddison, perhaps he was pressured by the media, especially, to take Maddison, but he still did it. He didn't have to, but he did it. And I think picking players who have done very well for England in the past, at the two previous fantastic tournaments, we must say, results-wise, getting to a semi-final and a final. No other team in Europe has done better over those last two tournaments than we have combined. So I think picking players out of form but are very solid in an England shirt, especially Maguire, I think I can see why he's done that, especially with how a lot of players in that position are out of form. So, am I talking a whole load of nonsense?
Well, no, everyone's going to have a different view on it, aren't they?
So is that a yes?
Well, yeah, I'm sitting on the fence. No, for me, like, if I'm a defender, like Tomori, for example, that's in form and has played well, has won titles, whatever, he's in the team regularly, playing it every week, and then you've got somebody like Harry Maguire, who for the best part of 2 years has been dreadful at club level. And he was quite poor in the last couple of England games he played too. He had a really stinker against Germany as well.
Alex agrees. Tomori should have gone ahead of Maguire. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
If the way you've got to look at it is that Tomori's played out of his skin trying to get into the England squad, and Maguire's not even starting for Man United at the minute, and he's gone. So you're thinking, what am I meant to do to get into the team? Because you obviously you're not getting in there on on merit, because if you're going in the squad on merit, Maguire's not going, is he? But it's a tough one, because, like you say, he's rarely put a foot wrong for England. The last couple of games he's been poor, but before that he's been phenomenal. And we probably play a system that suits Maguire a bit more, and things like that, and get the best out of him. But it's just the whole what do you do mentality wise to the players that are playing well and aren't getting in the squad, because you can imagine how frustrating that is. And obviously if they've got a good character about them, they'll use it as motivation, because obviously if you didn't get in this squad, then I'm going to try harder and get into the next one. But it's going to damage your confidence wise for a little bit, isn't it? Because you're thinking you're playing out your skin, but I've not gone, so what did I do wrong? And it's always a tough one. I think this is why they say the England job's the impossible job, isn't it? Because you've got to try and figure out a squad that appeals to everybody. But this squad, to me, this tournament, it just feels a little, I don't know. The last two tournaments we went into it, I think the whole nation was together and excited, and I just think the truly woeful form that England have shown leading up to this tournament, as well as the inclusion of players that aren't playing so well at club level as well, has just led to this. I think there's a different feeling going into this tournament.
There's a rift, I think, between the fan base and the England squad. We went into the Euros last year with a very young team. I mean, even the World Cup in 2018, that was a lot of the players from that World Cup team aren't in the squad no more. But we've seen the likes of Saka, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham all break through, to name a few players. And these players this season, Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, Bellingham, they've been in the form of their lives this season. So we should be going into this tournament with these great young players, excited about the prospects of us finishing, high in this tournament. We should be going far. But the fact Southgate, we've gone into, like you've said, Anne, we've gone into this tournament, very poor form. It's a tainted sort of World Cup itself with where it's held and the sort of controversy that's come with that. So I think that sort of played into our sort of reasoning why we aren't that optimistic as we were in previous years, especially with the Euros last year, getting to the final. I see ourselves not even getting past maybe quarterfinals we'll reach, and then we'll struggle because, if you look at the potential draw that we could get France in the quarterfinals, and do I see us beating France?
I think another thing is it as well. I think a lot of people have lost faith in Southgate's ability to get the best out of the plethora of attacking talent that the England squad have. We should be going into major tournaments with these kind of players thinking we've got a real chance of winning this. You know, we've got one of the best number 9s in the world in Harry Kane. We've got players like Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka that you know do. Absolutely.
I think the players are going into the tournament with that mentality. It's the fans who aren't.
But you see, the thing is that I think back to, you know, you see how well Phil Foden does for Man City. I don't think we've seen Phil Foden really play well for England. I can't remember one game where he played and thought, you know what, he was class today. I think Foden we've not managed to see the best of in an England shirt, and I don't know if it's because of, obviously, Man City is going to have a lot more of the ball and be able to attack a lot more. Of course he is, but you know, a player of his talent should be able to still be just as effective, you know, on the international stage, and probably should be. And you know, the amount of goals that we should score, we probably don't. And I think that's where the frustration lies: is that we've got such potential to be a team that blows, you know, other nations out the water, but I don't think people have the confidence that we're going to do that. He always includes, you know, we'll play 5 at the back with a double pivot. You know,
This is the main issue, I think, with the squad. It's not the players he's picking; it's the formation and the style of play that he decides to choose.
Or lack of style.
He's essentially admitting by the way he plays that he has no faith in the defence because he wants to play 2 defensive midfielders in front of them instead of just going for it and just doing with the attack we have, we should be going for an idea of we'll score more goals than you rather than we'll stop you from scoring goals against us. Because by the time it's like we're watching Hull City. The moment that we concede with England, the team just loses their heads.
I'll put my defend Southgate at all costs hat back on, and I think some of the reasons why I'm disagreeing with this is that of the nature of the build up to this tournament. Unlike at the Euros or any other World Cup, where you have about 4 weeks before the World Cup to play a few friendlies and to build up that tactical system. Regarding why he's picked players who have played for England before and why we play a defensive system, is that there isn't really any time. You're going straight from England on the plane, a few training sessions, and then you're playing the first match after, you know, just the second day of the World Cup. So I don't think there's time to teach these players the system or teach how, you know, tell them how to play for England. And
but this thing,
not played before.
He should have been teaching this system for ages already.
He
should have been doing this years ago.
Madison and Tomori should have been in England squads more significantly, more prominently in the last few years, really. That's the reason why.
There's a couple of others who I think missed out as well, like Dan Burn at Newcastle would have been a good shout as well to be in the squad.
He's not played, so you want to trust the players who've done it. And then I think we do want to see England score a lot of goals, but it's tournament football. It worked at the Euros. We scored 2 goals in the group stage, and we weren't at our best. Hopefully, we were more fluid in this group stage. But it's tournament football. If you don't concede any goals, you will win the tournament with the forward players we've got, because we do score enough goals. And against Ukraine, we scored 4. It did get a little bit better towards the end of that tournament, and Kane started scoring. But there's not enough time to teach these players who have just come in 2 systems, 5 at the back and like a 4 at the back with more attacking players for the group. I think it would make sense to stay solid with a back 5 in the group stage, because they're not training games, but you want to make sure you get through those, score maybe 1 or 2 goals per game, and then you have that confidence in the system to play bigger teams when you get further into this tournament, especially as I don't think our players...
that's where I disagree with you, though, because I think this group stage, we're perfect to top this. You look at this group, and obviously on the playing nations like Wales and Iran and the USA is always...
On paper, not strong, really.
On paper, we should blow all 3 of those teams away and win the group easily. Obviously, England usually do things the hard way. We have to sort of live a double life for that with City and England, but I would go attacking in the group stages to get as many goals as possible, top that group, and get your confidence up of all your attacking players, so that when you go into the more difficult games, you can maybe then start tweaking and playing a bit more of a rigid system to defend, but also have your attacking players on their best game, so that, you know, if we get a chance that comes by, they're going to put it away. If you look, I mean, for me, if you've got 5 at the back and then you're playing 2 sitting midfielders, that's just it blows my mind that you can do that with this squad. For me, you only need Rice sitting. I don't know why we need 2. You can put Rice there protecting the back 4, and then you want your full backs to attack, and then if needs be, you can drop Rice into it, make it a back 3 whilst your full backs have pushed on.
My argument is that like with Rice, I think that for West Ham he don't really play in a sitting role like on his own. I think he plays more advanced, like getting forward.
Box to box, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's the problem with England. We don't have that. Say if England had a Rodri, that would be perfect. Someone that just sits in front of the defence, gets the ball, and sort of plays it forward. I think that's the sort of simple play we need in there. And I think it's difficult to sort of pin where players can play in our system, because you look at Phil Foden for Man City, he plays from the left wing, but I don't think for England he's ever really played on the left. People think he should play in attacking midfield, but for Man City he plays on the wing. I think Southgate has to get the sort of players in the right positions. I'd play 4-2-3-1 personally. I think that would be the best. That's the best system for this squad. Because you could start Maddison in behind Kane if he was going to start Maddison.
Mount or someone.
Yeah, or Mount, and then you could start Foden on the left, Saka on the right, Kane up front, and then you could have Bellingham and Rice next to each other. I think that's the perfect sort of that complements each other well. It's a perfect blend of sort of protecting the defence and sort of having this, great attacking quartet. So
yeah, I mean, I'd like to see us play attacking against these sides, because I do think we could score some goals, but the confidence in the team and the defence is low. We conceded 4 against Hungary. I think it's not exciting, but it's tournament football. We didn't concede any goals from open play at the Euros. That's why we got so far. I think it's the most sensible way, and statistically, if you're playing the percentages, this is the way you get through. And I think that is what Southgate is doing. But perhaps for the group stage, it's perhaps not as big a deal against.
I do think as well
in these knockout games.
I do think as well that you think of top nations like England, France, Spain, Portugal. They're expected to walk the groups, and it never happens like that. There's always shocks in the tournament. You play teams like Iran, USA. They go out there with a nation behind them to pull off an upset. So they're going to do everything they can to win. It's like when teams go to Man City in the Premier League and they pull off a shock. I think it's sort of a similar thing. They'll sit back behind the ball to make it hard for you to break down, and that's what we found in the last World Cup when we played against Tunisia. It took us till the 90th minute to break them down. Harry Kane scored that winner, and that sort of gives us the confidence for the rest of the tournament to go on, push on, and sort of start scoring goals. I think the first game, I do think it'll be quite tepid. It'll be quite a low scoring game. If we score like 4 goals, then I'm obviously going to be wrong. But I do think that the first game is when you get your feelers out there for the rest of the tournaments. I think it's important we start well. But like you said there, I think it's important that we just go into that game, hopefully don't concede, come out with like a 1 or 2-0 win and move on.
Yeah, so you've sort of not jumped ahead, but you've said what some of your lineup would be. Or do you want to just finish that 11 and then we'll go around and say what our 11 would be for the first match on Monday?
So I think Pickford in goal. I think given what he's done for the past few years for England, he's
Alex is going to interrupt and say that he thinks Nick Pope should start over Pickford. I think that's utterly ridiculous. I mean, the last time Pope played for England, he fumbled the ball in the last few minutes and we drew the game. So I think you've got to have Pickford,
Yeah, when you go
to Euro final penalty saver, Jordan Pickford, you've got to have him.
Yeah, you've got to start someone that's tried and tested in that position. He's been consistent for England over the years. So I have to start them. At the back, to be fair, I'd like to start Stearns and White, but I just know it's going to be Stearns and Maguire at the back.
Your 11, Tom.
Yeah, my 11. I'd start Stearns and White. For how good a White's been for Arsenal this season. I know he's been playing right back, but he slots into centre back nicely. He's great on the ball. He's a ball playing centre back that we want to play. Then left back is an interesting one because you could put Trippier over there and play him, where he's played recently for England, or in the run up to the Euros last time, or you could play Shaw, and I'd probably start Shaw, and then Trippier on the right side, and then obviously the rest of the team I've said.
Yeah. What about you, Ant? Two at the
me and
back.
Will talk about this. Me and Will, I'd love to do that. Me and Will talk about it on the train. I would actually start Ramsdale in goal, and I know he's not got much international experience.
I'm this close to kicking you off the pod.
No, because Nick Pope doesn't have. Yeah, Nick Pope doesn't have the minerals to do the playing out from the back that Southgate wants to do. He's a good keeper. He's a good shot stopper. He's a traditional keeper, but he doesn't suit the system. Pickford, you see, he's been poor for Everton. You see, but Ramsdale this season has improved. You know, Arsenal are the top of the league. They're in form, and he's been playing out from the back, and he's been learning that under Arteta. For me, I think we'd be silly not to take advantage of his high confidence and high form. Yeah, he's a player in form, playing for a top of the league in the Premier League, and he's progressed every season. He's getting better. So his natural progression now is to play for his country. Because if you can put, see, I wouldn't be against Pickford starting, because he's always like he's similar to Maguire. He's very passionate, and you know you're going to get 100% from Pickford when he plays for England. But for me, if you're going, to me, I'm not going to criticize Southgate for not picking his team on form and then pick my team on, and put a keeper in goal that's doing awful this season. Ramsdale's in form. He's getting better. He's playing out from the back, and he's doing really well. So I can't see why there would be an argument against starting Ramsdale, other than he's experienced it in a national league. All keepers are going to have an experience.
There's one argument as well. There's that the relationship between the centre backs and the goalkeeper is quite important as well. I know.
Yes, Tom.
In the group stage,
you can stick Ben White in there. He plays with Ramsdale at club level.
The thing is, in the group stages, I know you're playing likes of Iran, USA. You might not get tested as much, but I think I'd rather start someone that's been experienced for England in goal. I mean, I won't be opposed to seeing Ramsdale. If he started, I don't think it would make a difference to my opinion. But I think if you're going into a tournament, you'd want to start someone that's had the experience, and you'd rather start Ramsdale in, before the tournament. You'd rather see him play, see how he does. But I think we already know what he's capable of doing. So it's one of them. I won't be bothered if either of them started, to be honest. But yeah.
What about the defense?
I would have I'd have Kyle Walker in right back, Ben White, John Stones, and then I'd have Trippier at left back. I'd have Bellingham and Rice sitting in front of them, and then I'd have Foden on the left, Maddison in the number 10, Saka on the right, and then Kane up top.
Yeah, I think Walker's probably not fit until the Wales game.
Trent then, because in the group stages we don't really need him to be defending that much, hopefully.
So when we lose 2-0 to Iran on Monday after starting 4 at the back with basically 3 at the back with Alexander-Arnold, then Ramsdale's fumbled 2 shots. Yeah, but 30 yards.
People will sit here and say that they wanted James Ward-Prowse in the team for his set pieces. Why can't you have Trent in the team for his set pieces?
Because he's rubbish. He's not rubbish, but he's a liability
well,
in the back 4.
Trippier takes set pieces when he's on for England, doesn't he? So
yeah,
we've seen what he's capable of past 2 tournaments.
I'm guessing very riled up.
In your team.
But you can. I think I'll go back on that. Yeah, but okay. Will, please spare me. Please have a better starting 11.
Time to rattle you some more. I'd have Ramsdale in goal as well.
I think you're joking.
I'm not. I'd have Ramsdale in goal as well for the same reasons Anne's already said.
I should just host this by myself at this rate. Oh dear. Ramsdale,
you're in a minority now, Nathaniel, so you've lost your high ground.
Do I not get the veto as host?
Where now Obi-Wan?
I have the award. I get the veto.
That makes sense. Yeah. What about just move quickly on back 4, back 5?
Back 4. I'd have because Walker's injured. I'd have Trippier at right back. I'd have White and Stones in the middle, and I'd have Shaw at left back. To be honest, it's almost the same as Ant's team. I always would want Bellingham and Rice as the midfield duo, with Maddison in front of them, Saka and Foden as the wide men, and Kane up front.
Yeah, I mean that does sound exciting. So I'm going to go with Pickford, a back 5 of Shaw, Stones, Maguire, and I don't even know who else I'd play because I'm not really confident in any of them. But
wait. Are you picking the team you want to see or the team that you think Southgate's
This is the team that I think we won't concede with if, and I trust Maguire.
So this would be your 11, and you've already started with a back five with Maguire in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Essentially, this is what I'm predicting it's going to be. But I would have played Tomori, but he's not there, so I have to pick Maguire instead. I have to pick the former Hull player. It is to Holland.
You're not going to pick Maguire, Stearns, and White.
I think White. I think actually, I'd be happy with the White, and then I'd have Trippier because I quite like him, and then Rice, Bellingham, Kane up front, of course. And then I'm not really sure who I'd play up front because I do like. I think Sterling's done well in England shirt, but again, form-wise, he's not been up to scratch. And I think I can only pick a certain amount of players who are sort of out of form. I don't know whether Maddison's best position is on the wing. I don't think he'd play anyway. I think Saka, did well at the Euros, especially against Denmark. He had that energy that might break down a team, and we haven't seen the best of Phil Foden, but maybe this is the opportunity to see him. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the lineup, but I'm boring, so back five with Maguire, and no Maddison. No Maddison.
I feel like Nathaniel completely ignored that comment there. That was supporting us. With not.
Is this a comment from Alex Lancaster? You mean? Well, I haven't had time to read it.
Answer the question.
Watch the Bournemouth Everton highlights and tell me how composed Pickford is, Nathaniel. He sounds composed. He said Pickford is composed. I'm taking that. Nonsense, really.
You can't talk about defenders' confidence in a goalkeeper and then say that because these players know how the clubs are performing and how these players are performing. If I'm a centre back and I've got Pickford behind me and I know what kind of form he's in, I'm worried. I'm overthinking what I do as a defender because I'm thinking he's not on the ball this season, so I might have to sort of make up for some slack. Whereas my justification for putting Ramsdale in is because he's in form. Especially including somebody like Ben White that's got that understanding at club level. Yes, okay, they've both got experience at international level. Calvin Phillips had no international experience at the Euros and came away with England Player of the Year. So inexperience means nothing. If they're a good player, they're a good player. They've been picked because they're good enough for England, so they should be playing. So you pick your ones on form, and then you've got the most confidence in the players around you because they know what they're going into the tournament believing in their own ability and confidence-wise, and then that resonates with the rest of the squad. That's why, to me, you can't include the out-of-form players.
You wouldn't have taken Gaza to Italia 90 if you picked players based on experience. How do you feel about that, Nathaniel?
I wasn't born then.
Because I always hate the experience argument. It's such a cop-out. Oh, they've not played for England before. So what?
You're good enough.
At some point, none of these players have played for England. They've got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
no point putting them in a friendly against San Marino because what experience are they getting? They're playing against fans.
Getting experience of playing for England. I think starting them in a World Cup when that's their first experience of an England shirt would be a bad move.
Thing is, a lot of them get
when they did it with Phillips.
A lot of them get experience playing for England through like the under-23s and stuff like that.
No, it's a different ball game though.
Yeah, but they get experience playing in that setup.
Perhaps. But then the setup's going to be back five, probably. So we should play like that.
But it shouldn't be a back five.
It should be. It should be. Well, I don't really like picking lineups that I don't think it'll be anything like that. You probably noticed over the last year and a bit, I just don't see the point personally. So that's why it's so conservative. But I think that's the best way statistically to get us through the group in the top spot. But shall we move on to some other teams? Although quickly, because I want to move on to some other things and who's going to win. Just one word or 2 words. Where will England finish at the World Cup? And I'm going to go quarterfinal. What about you, Ant?
Round of 16.
Round of 16. Tom?
Quarterfinal. Will?
Quarterfinal.
Well, that's kind of
I thought
depressing.
You were confident, Nathaniel. A couple of weeks ago, you were saying it's going to and what's changed?
We'll have a look at how the groups might play out. But really, I think it's quarterfinal if we end up with France. But if the World Cup curse strikes again and we're playing Denmark, Mexico or Poland potentially in the quarterfinal, they're the other realistic teams it could be.
I think England lose to Denmark, to be honest.
Yeah, perhaps, but we'd have a better chance than against France, perhaps. So I think it's probably France quarterfinal.
You say that France look like they're going to have their classic World Cup meltdown again, so they're probably going to get through the group.
Perhaps.
Let's organise the shit, don't we?
Yeah. Anyway, next thing, who's going to be the top goal scorer? Who's going to win the Golden Boot? It was Kane last time.
Lionel Messi.
Messi? Tom, what do you think? Who's going to be the top scorer?
I've said Mbappe, but I think he'll light up the tournament. But that also depends on if France, like Will just said there, France have the meltdown, then you probably won't. But I think France are going to get far. So I think, Messi, not Messi, Mbappe.
You went?
I really want it to be Messi. There's a bit in me that if England don't win, I want Messi to win it. But I would say Messi, but I also think Benzema on the back of Ballon d'Or. I think he's going to have a good tournament. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of scary how many good options France have up front with Benzema and Mbappe could both be Golden Boot winner, and Griezmann's also very good. Even though we're playing a back five against Iran, in my view, I think Kane will score about 6 penalties and he might get the top scorer again if England get to at least a semi-final, maybe a quarter-final. And then who do we think is going to win? I'm imagining by the fact people have said Messi to be top scorer or a French player, it'll be one of them two.
I don't think France will be anywhere near personally, but I think Argentina will win it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I predicted that as well. Them or Brazil?
I've said Argentina.
Oh, have we all said Argentina? That's a bit boring.
Considering we're Englishmen, does that make us traitors?
I guess it does. I guess it does. Yeah, but it's likely to be a Brazil-Argentina semi-final, I think, and I think whoever wins that,
but there's always
wins that
shock. That's the thing. There's always that shock.
Yeah, I do love spending.
I think I'm in a minority. I don't fancy Brazil this year. I don't know. There's some they don't.
From an outside,
I don't even know a reason.
I look at Brazil.
I don't even know a reason.
Their squad just looks, but their squad always looks good.
Group of individuals, they're a great squad. You look at it, they've got the best squad in the tournament on paper for me. But a group of individuals, as we've seen in the past, don't win your tournament. So it depends if they can blend together and play like how they're capable of playing. It could be Neymar. I think Neymar's got one more World Cup in him, but he's like 30.
Brazil are typical to have players who are just individuals who just dominate tournaments, like Ronaldo and Ronaldinho in recent years.
Hasn't happened in a while, but
they took Richarlison, so if you got Richarlison,
he's great for Brazil.
Fairly decent.
He's good for Brazil, and he
hadn't even scored for Tottenham this season.
Yeah, he has.
I think he's got 1 assist at Spurs, hasn't he?
He's got 2 in the Champions League and Sporting, but I don't know about in the Premier League.
I think he's that player that's sort of better internationally, suits the international game.
Richarlison scored 17 goals for Brazil.
He's that South American sort of player that's just...
In how many caps?
38.
30. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. And South American qualifying is tough. You don't play any San Marinos. The worst teams there are like Peru or Bolivia. And they're still fairly solid, really. Bolivia's way better. Bolivia's way better than Andorra or someone. Argentina, 36 games unbeaten, similar to Italy. If you're hard to beat, as they were before the Euros.
Before the Euros, I predicted Italy to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with
I
Argentina.
predicted the last 2 World Cup winners, right? I predicted Germany and then predicted France as well.
So could be Argentina.
Mistakes.
Right. Well, let's have a look at the groups for the World Cup. And I'm not going to get us to go through and rank our, chances of where we think each team's going to finish or qualify. But and are there any sort of surprise packages or interesting groups that you think will throw up a surprise at the World Cup out of those?
I think Group H will be an interesting one.
Because Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, South Korea.
Yeah, is Son fit? I think he's just had surgery or something, hasn't he? I mean, to me, that group, Portugal, I just don't think. Like, obviously, Ronaldo's not well documented. Obviously, his interview with Piers Morgan and whatnot. He's not very happy at the minute, is he? And I don't know if the rest of the team are shirking him.
I hope the rest of the squad don't pass to him at all.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I just don't feel like Portugal have that unity going in this tournament, and I don't think he's got the ability to carry them like he usually does.
That unity is massively important, isn't it, for any team?
Yeah, I mean, Portugal have kind of just been sort of, lifted through most games by Ronaldo, haven't they? And if you take him or his goals out of the equation, I don't think they've got a lot of talented players, but I don't think they've got a lot of potent goal scorers. They've got a lot of creativity, but not a lot of goals in them. So I think that group will be interesting because Ghana, I think, will fancy themselves for getting through that group.
Yeah, I think Ghana's an underdog, sort of a dark horse in the tournament. Yeah. I agree.
And obviously, if Son comes into the tournament on fire, he's got that ability that Ronaldo would do for Portugal to sort of single-handedly win him games. So if they win one game and Portugal lose their first, for example, it gets very interesting.
Surely Uruguay's winning that group.
Yeah, you would expect Uruguay to win that group. But I think that's a group that points-wise will be quite even, and there won't be any real standout side. Uruguay should be that team, but I just don't think.
I wouldn't mind Ghana knocking out Uruguay as a sort of slight revenge for South Africa.
Yeah,
Luis Suarez.
I've seen a bit of debate on Twitter about that, and I think a lot of people sort of think Suarez did the right thing because, Ghana had a chance to.
I can't stand what he did, but if an England player did that, I'd probably love him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ghana did have a chance to score the penalty. It's Jean, was it, who missed the penalty? They did have a chance to go through, and it was just the fact he missed, which made it infamous. I think it's interesting you picked out Group H because I haven't really looked at Ghana's squad, and I've not really thought about the unity in Portugal. But I would have said perhaps along with Group F, considering the weaker
Belgium.
teams there, Canada and Morocco. I think the two weaker teams and the two better teams in F and H are significantly different. So I would have said F and H are the nails on for Portugal and Uruguay, but that's just me.
The thing is, I think Belgium could be the one that sort of slip up this tournament. We've seen the Georgia generation sort of pass by. They're not won anything. And I think you look at the squad now; they're not got players in there that are going into the tournament in form. Lukaku's not the player he once was. But they have got sort of emerging talents in there like Trossard. They've got to sort of dig him out. Obviously, they've got the Kevin De Bruyne, obviously one of the greatest playmakers we've seen in the recent times. So, if you've got De Bruyne in your team, you've got a chance. But I think Belgium could struggle. I think they'd get out of the group, but I don't see them going far in the tournament.
Yeah, they've had the golden generation pass by, haven't they?
Look at the defence.
Same with Croatia in their group as well.
Yeah, those are both old teams.
They're still good teams, but they're past their prime.
I think groups F and G, I think, are the most even in terms of standard of. I think Group G, because even Cameroon are, the African teams are a bit wild cardy, aren't they? Because they're notoriously bad at defending, but they can score goals. But obviously Senegal don't have Mane, though, do they? Mane's just been ruled out, though, hasn't he?
He's in the squad, though, isn't he?
He's in the squad.
He might not play. Maybe he wouldn't play most of the games or any of the group stage, perhaps. So we've said I've said which groups are, fairly obvious what's going to happen, in my opinion. But is there a group of death, anyone? Because I think our group is perhaps the toughest. Yeah, I mean, England, of course, were a very good team. But I think
all those teams are closest in terms of rankings in the world.
Iran, USA, and Wales are the closest out of any of the, I think 3 countries in any of these groups.
I would say our group.
Anyone could get out of that group.
I'd say us and C, maybe.
C, yeah, Mexico and Poland.
Mexico and Poland are decent sides.
Well, I think Poland and Argentina went to the top 2.
Poland? That'd be a surprise. I think Mexico have made round of 16 every World Cup for at least this. Yeah, it's his last time to shine.
But you can't just base everything around one player.
You can't, but these talismanic players usually have the abilities to, they can win games, can't they?
Well, Poland haven't set the world like with Lewandowski in the squad, really, have they, though?
Yeah.
In tournaments.
No, but they have the ability, I think, to get to the knockouts in that group.
Yeah, Mexico's. I don't know.
I don't really know what they're. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I don't know. I don't really know about Mexico, to be honest. My basis was just on the fact that Lewandowski plays for Poland. I think he could fire them to the knockouts, to be honest. But Mexico is one of them, sort of teams that you could see shocking. I don't know.
I don't know whether I would say them as a surprise package, but I mean, my surprise package for this tournament, I think, would be that Serbia are going to get out of the group. I know Cameroon and Switzerland are both good teams, and they're up there with
I've
Brazil.
Seen a lot of people say about Serbia, to be honest.
Yeah,
Samuel Eto'o will be fuming with you on that one.
Oh yeah, but they've got Mitrovic, who's in the form of his life in the Premier League, and Vlahovic, who's a Juventus striker, and they've got some other good players. They've got Kostic as well. Exactly. I think they've got a very good squad and two really good strikers. I think they could score the goals in the tight games against Switzerland and Cameroon, and I don't know if they've ever got to a knockout stage as Serbia before, but I think they'll get out of the group. And rather than Switzerland, which was the case in the last group in 2018. Same with Group D, France, Australia, Denmark is exactly the same as it was in Group D of the last World Cup as well. So that's just interesting.
Jackson Irvine for Australia.
Perhaps shame Elder's not going.
But you look at it, it's quite bad when Callum Alder's not getting called up for Australia as their left back. It's quite bad.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything to talk about with these groups and how they're going to play out?
Qatar will win Group A by bribing all the other teams.
Well, just this evening I saw a tweet that allegedly
I don't actually think that's true, even though I tweeted about it.
Perhaps it's not true, but $7.4 million that Qatar have paid each, or 7 Ecuador players to lose a game, 1-0 specifically. I really don't. They couldn't get away with it. It would be so obvious.
Ivan Toney's all over that betting scandal.
Well, yes, Ian
I wonder how many times he's put himself to score first in a game or something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, who knows if he's actually bet on himself to score.
I mentioned it a second ago, but this is for everyone out. I assume you've seen what Samuel Eto'o picked as his World Cup prediction.
No, do enlighten us.
Yeah, so Cameroon to win, didn't he?
He has said that the final will be Cameroon versus Morocco. Cameroon winning.
You've got to dare to dream.
England will go out in the round of 16 to Qatar.
That might not be Qatar. I was going to say that might not be far off when you said about Qatar. How's it?
I'll just have a look at what he's put.
Well, we might
group.
Play
he had Senegal and Qatar getting through in Group A. He had us and Iran getting through in Group B. Argentina, Poland, France, Tunisia, Germany, Spain, Morocco, Belgium, Cameroon, Brazil, and Portugal and Ghana.
Yeah, he's smoking something.
For the most, but I just love the idea of Cameroon Morocco final.
That'd be more entertaining than one of the big nations.
Senegal finishing third as well.
Yeah, I can tell
it's
you.
Almost like he's an ambassador for African football.
It might be. It's like that. Surely that can't be the reason. I mean, he's a very good football player. He's obviously got some insight that we don't have. I don't really think there's much else to mention. I'll just show you the stadium, the Khalifa International Stadium, which is where England will be playing their first match of the World Cup.
Wonder how many slaves died to build that.
Well, yes, it does look lovely though, but obviously, of course, the workers' rights in Qatar is fairly dreadful. But it looks nice, and it'll be a nice place to go for. Yeah.
Thousands of people have died, but
I don't know whether that's actually true. It's probably somewhere in the middle of those numbers. I think the official title is like numbers 3 or something, and then, but the number, even in the article that was published about the is it the 6,500 deaths? The article isn't even saying that's how many people have died working. That's just general deaths in Qatar for some sort of figure. But obviously, even if no one's died, the rights that they have is not good enough, and the conditions that they've been working in. But that's the stadium England will be playing in, and a few days away now. So I think we'll just finish off with our score predictions for England against Iran, 1 p.m. on Monday. And are the 3 Lions going to get the first 3 points of the tournament?
I think they are. I think if Syed Manesh was playing, it would have been 3-1 to Iran with the Syed Manesh hat-trick. But obviously he's not going, which is good news for England. I think we've got to have too much for Iran. It's got to be. I don't think we'll blow them out of the water with a lot of goals because it's Southgate as manager. But I think it'll be like a nice, comfortable 2-0 Hopefully Kane getting off on the first game so that he can, because he's been a bit of a slow burner into these tournaments, hasn't he, Kane? Well, he wasn't the last one. He wasn't the World Cup. He was,
but at the Euros, definitely.
Yeah, the Euros. It took him to the last stages of the tournament, didn't it, to get going. So I think if he gets his first quite early on, get his confidence up so that we've got him the best version of Kane for the rest of the tournament, then I'd be happy with that. 2-0.
Absolutely. What about you, Will?
4-0
Maddison hat-trick, perhaps?
No.
5-0?
No, it would be 4-0 Maddison hat-trick because Southgate won't pick Maddison.
Maguire up top.
He'll pick Mount, won't he, to be fair? I think he'll pick Mount over Maddison.
He'll pick Mount. He will pick Mount, which is stupid because he's had a poor season, but he's one of Southgate's boys. But ignoring that, I think
Sterling will probably start as well.
I'm not sure. Perhaps.
Yeah, Sterling will probably start, even though he's
I would
not
go with
done much for Chelsea.
1-0 England. Kane
1-0.
penalty.
Yeah, perhaps. I had a dream that England would win 2-0 and Kane would score 2 penalties. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I think 1-0 to England. I think these first games are always a slow burner. I'm not expecting us to blow them away, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did, that sort of thing. But, 1-0.
I think this is going to be perhaps our most fluid, attacking, exciting display of the whole tournament, potentially.
So
I think we're going to go with a stunning 2-0. I think we might score 1 goal from open play and then maybe a set piece or penalty. And it would be lovely for Kane to score during the first match. Am I going to get told off for that?
No.
Good. Well, I think we've ended the podcast on a high.
Whoa. No, we can't end the podcast on a high because you've managed to gloss over the fact that Qatar shouldn't be hosting this fucking thing.
Yes. Have your rant, Will.
There you go. Why the fuck has a country like Qatar been able to? Well, I know why they've been able to do it. They've just given they gave Sepp Blatter a load of money in 2010 and said, "Here, give us a tournament."
And then a couple of years later, Sepp Blatter and Platini got them for fraud. So
exactly.
And then a couple of weeks ago, Sepp Blatter says, "Yeah, we probably shouldn't have done it in
Qatar." Nice one, mate.
Well, yeah, you say it now. You've spent all the fucking money you got, haven't you? How can a country that has such horrendous human rights issues and such censorship and
LGBT, the hate gay people altogether, it's shocking.
Are we talking about Qatar or the next one in America?
Both.
That's a political joke.
Stop trying to deflect from Qatar. How much money have they given you, Nathaniel?
Not enough.
I know a few people that have gone out there on that scheme where FIFA have been paying fans to go. And pay for flight and accommodation.
Can we talk about these weird videos of like Qatari?
Yeah. My favourite one of those videos was of the German fans that were singing in English.
I'm singing about Gareth Southgate, but it's so out of tune and singing like it's coming home, and it's just
they're saying it's coming home, and it was totally like the wrong.
It's coming home,
and not football's coming home, just it's coming home. They're not talking about what it is. Ridiculous.
This whole tournament just seems like since the first time it was announced, it's going into it like it's horrible. None of the players think it should have been there. None of the fans think it should have been there. Yet it's there anyway, and
that's why no one's excited about it. It's not to do with our team; it's to do with the actual tournament.
At winter, in the middle of a season, players that probably would have gone to the World Cup in the summer, they're injured.
It being winter doesn't bother me. It's just
that's not the worst thing. Is it?
It bothers me.
It's where it is that bothers me.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why it shouldn't be there. It should never have been given it in the first place because it was a corrupt bid. And bribes, awful workers' rights, awful women's rights. It has to be held in the winter. The conditions of the fan places, accommodations, not very good. And yeah, it's going to be a whole mess. And then, of course, the LGBT rights are terrible, really. So it should not be held there. And lots of people have been discussing it. Was it the new FIFA president said we should just focus on the football? That's not going to happen. Yeah, I think it's extremely important that we do talk about this, even though I forgot to. And hopefully, even it started just even before the World Cup started. A few days ago, it was Danish TV got told they couldn't film somewhere where they obviously probably have the right
freedom
to.
of the press doesn't exist in Qatar.
There seems to be
How can
this
you host
bizarre...
an international sports tournament in a place where there's no freedom of press?
There seems to be this bizarre that there are some people as well. Like, and I had an hour-long conversation with somebody on a comment section on Facebook, and they were saying that you should
That's sad.
you should no, because what they said was that going over to Qatar, we shouldn't be complaining about their you should respect their laws and traditions and whatever. And to which I said, no, that's fine. But
they should be hosting a tournament.
Yeah, but it's not just that. There's a difference between, respecting a drinking age in America and beheading people because they're gay. Do you know what I mean? There's a huge difference.
It's a line.
Levels.
It's not the same, is it? And people were trying to say it's the same. They're like, if you go to America as an 18-year-old English, you can't drink. You respect their laws. And it's like, but that's not a comparison at all. Like, these are breaching human rights, which the entire planet abides by. That's the whole point of the Human Rights Act, was that every human on the planet gets the right to, love who they want, do what they want, freedom of expression. And they're not doing that. That's not the same at all in that respect. It annoyed me. That's why.
I've had a similar argument as well, to be honest. It's just...
Any culture that is based on discrimination is not a culture, in my opinion. Maybe that's too offensive or woke for some people, but that's just what I think. It's despicable.
Yeah, because football's meant to be like a unification sport. The World Cup's meant to be a celebration of the entire world coming together and enjoying the sport that they love and enjoying it, with different cultures coming and mixing. And when you then host it in a country that doesn't have a culture that allows people to express themselves in that way and have the freedom to do so, that goes against what the World Cup stands for. It's what it's meant to do. This is not meant to be going on in the name of football, in the name of FIFA. To me, if you're going to a country that restricts those rights, basic human rights, then football shouldn't be going there, because football will loudly speak out against whatever all the time, but then happily host a tournament there. It's just madness, and it doesn't make sense.
It's funny, we should be talking about politics with football, because if that's the case, why did he ban Russia from being at the World Cup?
Yeah.
Because
no one had a problem with that.
Why are they there? They qualified for it.
Yeah. Or could have done. Yeah.
No, they did qualify.
Did they? No, they were going to be in the playoff, right?
The playoff game against
Scotland. They were in the playoffs.
But pretty close.
They played against Ukraine, didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. But...
absolutely.
When you look back at who should have been hosting them, I've noticed it in the comments, but Australia should have had this World Cup. Yeah,
that would have been good. It's never been hosted in Oceania.
It's a new country which still likes football and isn't an intolerant nation.
And they already have all the stadiums ready for...
Exactly.
Might need a few more, but you don't need to go through all this preparation, people losing their lives, to host it in a country that no one wants it there. But, that's just...
It's all about money. All about money.
Yeah. Well, anyway, hopefully as England fans, we have a team to be proud of, as I think we've had in the last two knockout tournaments that we've had. Nations League wasn't so good, but, it's World Cup. Hopefully England do well. It's coming home, even though I predicted Argentina. So thank you, everyone, for listening in.
It's coming out, but...
it's going somewhere, certainly. And the team will definitely be coming home, but hopefully not too early. Thank you again for everyone who voted for us in the Football Content Awards. We're very delighted, as we're showing the beautiful, what would you call that, certificate or prize or
trophy?
Trophy, there you go. So thank you very much again. We'll be back again soon to talk about the England-Iran game and all of the goings on at the World Cup.
Talk about us losing 2-0 and...
Yeah, quite possibly.
The tournament is already over.
As moved to score. Where Iran.
I'm trying to wrap this up, guys.
Stop. Score.
Oh yeah, is he from Iran?
He might be in the squad though. He's not good enough.
No, I don't think he's in the squad.
No, he won't be in the squad.
That would have been funny if suddenly he showed up off the bench and did score.
Then I would predict 5-0 win to England.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so thank you again for everyone who's listened and voted, and we'll be back quite soon.